Welcome to a very special episode of the Mastering Runeterra podcast. I'm joined today with one of our Mastering Runeterra Pro Team members, WhatamI. For those that do not know the name, he is a streamer, a top-ranked competitive player with multiple top 32s. How many do you have now?
I think I hit top 32 twice, then I hit top 16, then I hit top 8. So if I keep that trajectory up, then I'll just keep getting better.
So is that you've top 32'd 4 seasonals?
Four out of 5. I think
4 out of 5.
It's 3 or 4. I lose track.
Either way, so many that we can't count them. A lot more than the rest of us. And you're known very much for being a brewer, someone that creates decks. You always, you have your specialty. It used to be Targon back before it got a bunch of nerfs. Even now, though, still trying to make Targon happen. Yeah, tier. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and obviously you've now qualified for Worlds, and that's why we're doing this interview, and we'll get there. Yes. But I don't even know that much about your background in gaming and card games, and how you actually started with Runeterra.
So my big entrance to Runeterra was through kind of Magic the Gathering and League of Legends kind of combining, because I was a really big Magic player for most of the first 20 years of my life. And it kind of tapered off a little bit. Some things happened. We don't need to go into that. Magic's still a cool game. Love it. But I don't really play that much anymore. And then because I'm just a competitive person, anything that I get into, I will end up trying to play at the top level. I did it with Magic. I did it with Hearthstone, StarCraft, so many games. I just I can't not try to play at the top level of whatever I'm playing. I'm built that way. So I was starting to work up at League of Legends. I hadn't gotten that far yet. I got into Diamond, and I started to hear about this new card game that came out. I'm okay, I like card games. Let's come check it out. And I'm wow, this is like all of the other card games I've played, but they try to take all the mistakes and make them better. I'm in. Let's go.
Nice. Yeah, totally agree on all of those points. I'm also the same, just competitive, gotta go to the top. And so when did you start I don't know, kind of putting it together? That did you pick it up pretty quickly? Did it kind of come naturally to you? Because for me, also coming from Magic, at first I was oh, this is just very basic Magic. That's what it seemed like to me. It wasn't until maybe a month or two in that my eyes started to open to the possibilities and how deep the game really is. But for me, as long you came in before I did, and so to me, you've always just been very good. You've always kind of got it. Did you pick it up right away, or did it take you? Was there a bit of a learning curve?
I actually did just jump right into it. From the first day, I felt and this is a moment where I always do my best not to be arrogant, right? I kind of feel like the world has caught up to me, but I felt honestly, on the first day playing Runeterra, it felt like nobody else knew how to play the game, and I just couldn't lose. I could not lose games. And I feel at this point, there's definitely, everyone's kind of caught up, and the top level of play is kind of at the same level, and the competition's going to be fucking fierce, and it's crazy, and I love that. But from the start, I think I did, in fact, know what was going on in Runeterra.
Yeah, you've always seemed to have an approach to the game. You're also known for your very clean technical play, and you've always seemed to kind of just sort of know a little bit more than everyone else, or see the game a different way, or see it very clearly. You're able to really pinpoint things that are important, or why things are working or not working. And you're talking about everyone catching up to you, but you did just go through 64. Well, you joined 64 of the best players in North America that qualified for the open rounds of Worlds, and made it to the top 16. So you're obviously doing some things right. What was that whole qualifier period like?
So the qualifier was crazy, and a bunch of different things happened. Don't need to go into that. But as far as the actual games went, I don't think I won a game with double-digit hit points once. Everything was down to the wire. Even the 2-0s that I got, it was absolutely insane. I felt like I had to be playing at my absolute best to have any kind of chance. And you say that I see the game a little bit different than other people do, and I feel like maybe I do, but it's not complicated, and I try to tell people how I see the game, like every time I'm on stream or writing an article or everything. It's figure out what your victory condition is, and then everything else is based around that, right? Whether you're building a deck, whether you're in the game, whatever's going on, if you know where you're trying to go, then it's easy to figure out how you're supposed to get there and what gives you your best odds.
Yeah, fair enough. Having a plan is one thing, but you also like attack meta games from like certain angles and stuff, and you'll come up with these like wacky decks and stuff, and that's like a lot more than just having a plan. Like I've built lots of decks that had a plan. That plan did not go particularly well when it went up against other people's plans.
Sure.
So yeah, as you say, like all the matches that I saw, I only got to see one of yours because I think it was from someone else's point of view.
I was not.
All the matches. Yeah, all the matches that I saw were like they were all razor close. There was no one was getting those easy wins or free wins. What did you end up playing, and like why did you bring it? Why do you think you were successful?
So I've been trying not to go and blush as you've been talking about me as like this really cool wacky deck builder, because this is one of the tournaments where I honestly just showed up with the 3 best decks, and I definitely, at least according to me. Right? And there are definitely other people who might disagree with that. And I definitely had some hot tech choices, I think, that really helped me. Like, there were one-ofs in every single one of my lists that I would not have gotten through without of. They were a big deal. But I showed up with Scion Midrange, I showed up with Poppy Rally, and I showed up with Nami Nonsense. So I took 3 decks that do ridiculously powerful things, and I gave them a little tweak, and that I think that went really well for me.
Yeah, so... a couple of things there. One, you mentioned like having one-ofs in your deck, and this is something that like the Magic thinking around has only in the last, I don't know, some number of years, but Magic's been around for like 35 years, and I feel like it's only in the last, like, we'll say 5, to be generous, that people started to understand like the power of having like one-ofs, like cards of like one copy in their deck, because there was, people always talked about consistency and stuff. How do you see that in Runeterra? Because like you do tend to see a lot of your cards, especially you mulligan all 4. Like you do get a decent chance of of seeing those one-of cards. What are your thoughts? I'm interested to get your take there on like in Runeterra, like one-ofs versus consistency and whatnot.
So I think there are 2 distinct differences, right? Runeterra as a 40-card game versus Magic as a 60-card game. Means that you are going to see the cards that you put only one of in your deck a lot more, just because that's how the math works. A couple of differences, more than 2. Runeterra as a game without lands means you can play situational one-ofs because you will have a lot of games where you don't need every card, right? If I have a situational one-of that isn't amazing, it's just okay, it's just kind of doing whatever it is, and it's not doing the cool thing I want it to do, that's fine a lot of the time. And third, open deck lists. For anyone who's coming from the Magic universe, unless you get to the very, very top end of tournaments, you don't have open deck lists. And Runeterra is very different. Runeterra, throughout basically any level of tournament, through seasonal quals, through seasonals, through worlds, through any grassroots tournament, it's all open deck list. And what that means is those one-ofs are partly there because they're going to do good things for me, and they're partly there to fuck with how my opponent has to think about the game the whole time. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because there's like kind of 2 camps there, right? Some people think that the one-ofs are better when it's like closed deck list, so you like get them. And then some people like that their opponent knows so that maybe they play around them. So you're saying you're in the camp of thinking that like you want to mess with people's heads and have them like overthink things and maybe make mistakes because of that?
Anytime I'm building a deck or building a lineup, one of the first things that crosses my mind is how hard can I make my opponent's life no matter what they're playing? Every time they're making decisions, every time they're trying to figure out what they're doing, I want them to have the highest possibility of making an error, or even if not an error, making a suboptimal play in that situation because they have to play around something or because they don't know exactly what my plan is in any given situation. The harder it is for my opponent, the better it is for me. This is a zero-sum game, guys.
Yeah. That's a great take. And so why did you decide for those open rounds to go with what you said, you thought were kind of the three best decks? They were very known quantities going into the tournament. They were like ripping up the ladder. Everyone basically knew about them. Why did you decide to go that route instead of your usual kind of attack the meta from like a rogue kind of left field sort of strategy?
So I think that any time you're going into a metagame, you're always going to have one of two things. And generally binary choices are false, but this one is very true, right? This one says either you're going to be in a metagame like TF Fizz, where the best deck is so good that the people who are targeting it are going to lose a lot anyway, and so it's probably best to just play it, ban it, or both. Or you're in a metagame where that's not true, right? And in a metagame where that's not true, it becomes much more possible to target the best decks. And looking at what the best decks were, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I would target them if I could, what that would look like. And at the end of the day, I came out with some lineups that could do maybe 55, 60% across the board against a bunch of meta decks, and that's not enough. If you're going to be on a targeting lineup, you need to be crushing what you're targeting, because it's going to get 2 lives against you in a 3-deck format, and your opponent's not always going to have it. So you have to be kind of so powerful in those moments where what you're trying to have happen does, that it makes up for the moments where you miss. And I think this format was not one where you could afford to be doing that.
Yeah, that one I feel like is very clear in this format. Like the Nami Zoe deck, like, yeah, you can have decks, we talk about this, that are like maybe 55, 45 into it. But like you say, like you have to play against it twice. So when that deck high rolls, like it just goes off and like you're just done. It's like game over. So yeah, beating it twice, definitely quite difficult. And so now going into the top 16, I don't know how much you're allowed to like talk about your lineups or whatnot, but if you wanted, whatever you can share, like what your thinking was, or like how much time did you put in trying to like fine tune those lists, or like try to find like other new lists, because the meta has evolved somewhat since the opens.
So I definitely took another hard shot at seeing if I could crack the meta, and I feel like I missed. I took my shot. I put in a bunch of hours of testing it. Anyone who was watching OLS knows I was trying to make triple burn work. It super bombed at OLS, and I could not get it together in time. So I'm not going to give out exact deck lists because they asked us not to, but I'm going to say, yeah, it didn't change much. I am mostly in the same place I was for Worlds Quals for Worlds Prime.
Why exactly did you think that triple burn might be good into this meta, or into that field?
The reason it would have been so powerful, I think, if I could have refined the decks in time, is that first of all, you basically auto win against Bandletree, because they're just not killing until turn 7, 8, 9 or so, which you're always going to have enough time to play your burn, and they don't have heal. And then if you look at the decks in the format that do have heal, it's Darkness, which mostly doesn't exist and isn't that good a deck, and it's Nami, which I'm planning on banning. And in a format where the healing is so low, burn is a really good axis to come in on if you can make it work. And I think it probably was out there, and I missed my opportunity to make it work, unfortunately.
So you think maybe if you had a little bit more time to work on it, you might have like refined your list enough and
felt comfortable bringing it. Yeah, but yeah. The fact that we had to submit deck lists for Worlds Monday evening, I think kind of cut off that possibility. I might have had time, and at the end of the day, I just didn't.
Yeah, fair enough. So for anyone that doesn't know, the tournament's set up in a very unique sort of way. There's 16 players in 4 pods or 4 groups, and everyone plays the other 3 players in their pod, with the top 2 players moving on to the top 8. So there's going to be 2 pods will play on Thursday, 2 pods will play on Friday, the top 8 will play on Saturday. You're playing on Thursday. What do you think about this sort of like unique sort of tournament structure? I mean, like at the end of the day, you just have to win. But is there anything, does this change anything compared to like the double elimination open rounds, for instance?
I don't think it really changes anything in deck selection or how you're going to play it, but I will say that I always find group stages and the creation of group stages to be much more hype ever since my StarCraft days. That's I think that is a type of tournament that is easy to hype and creates really cool storylines, and I'm very in favor of more tournaments like that at a high level.
Yeah, Sam, I think it's really interesting. I'm really excited to watch it. Okay, as we're wrapping up here, is there anything that you'd like to say to all of our listeners out there? Anyone that's, perhaps some little nuggets of wisdom for anyone that's trying to maybe qualify for seasonals or try to top 32 their first seasonals? Any little tidbits of information that you think might be useful to the average player?
Sure, and I'm I'm gonna say the same thing I always say. I'm gonna sound like a broken fucking record, but until people start listening to me, I'm gonna keep saying the same thing. Figure out what your win condition is in every matchup. Figure out how you're gonna get there, and that will tell you what every single one of your plays is. And figure out what your opponent is trying to do, and that will let you understand their hand position, and you will know... It's Sun Tzu. Know yourself, know your opponent, know victory.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic advice. All right, well, thank you so much for doing this interview and coming on. The best of luck to you on Thursday. Me and the rest of us, the Mastering Runeterra fam, will be cheering you on. I'm sure we'll be seeing you play on Saturday. So that's it for us.
I'll do my best.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.